Grayson Hale checked his watch for what felt like the 100th time, 6:43 p.m. The second hand ticked too loud against the soffit of the cafe. He still wasn't sure why he'd agreed to this. His sister's voice echoed in his mind. Just one blind date, Gray. You need to talk to someone who isn't a board member or an investor. He had caved just to stop her relentless calls. Now here he was, sitting in a cozy cafe on Main Street in a small Vermont town he had once called home and vowed never to return to. The air smelled faintly of rain-soaked pine, coffee, and cinnamon pastries. It was too warm inside, too intimate, too human. The place felt nothing like the sleek offices and penthouse lounges that defined his life now. He promised himself 15 minutes. Then he'd leave politely and never look back. The door chimed softly. A gust of cold wind slipped through, carrying the sound of hesitant footsteps. Grayson Hale? He looked up. A woman stood by his table, a little out of breath. Her blonde hair was gathered in a loose bun, with soft curls falling against her cheek. She wasn't dressed to impress, just a floral dress, simple but elegant. Her blue eyes, bright and gentle, met his. "I'm so sorry I'm late," she said, smiling shyly. "The roads are terrible tonight." "It's all right," he said, rising instinctively and gesturing to the empty seat. "Thank you for waiting. I almost thought you'd leave." "I considered it," he admitted with a dry half-smile. Her laugh came soft and real. Not the polished kind he was used to from social events, but genuine, unexpectedly disarming. They ordered black coffee for him, chamomile tea for her, and let the first few minutes pass in polite conversation. Weather, work, the town's unchanged streets. She didn't ask about his company, his magazine features, or the Forbes list. It was refreshing. Then she tilted her head slightly, studying him. "You don't remember me, do you?" Grayson frowned. "I'm sorry." Her smile deepened, quiet and knowing. "You saved me once, Grayson. When I was just a hungry kid hiding behind the book stacks." The word struck him like a soft but sharp chord. His fingers froze around his coffee cup. Save her? A hungry kid? His mind searched through dusty corners of memory. Faces, places, moments. Only a flicker came to him. The library after school, sunlight spilling across rows of old books. A brown paper bag. A little girl. But it vanished before he could hold on to it. He began, then stopped. She leaned forward slightly, her voice gentle. "You were a teenager. I was maybe 8. You left your lunch behind one day. I thought it was a mistake." Grayson's throat tightened. "It wasn't. I figured that out eventually," she said softly. "You did it again the next day. And the next. No words, just kindness." He stared at her, something shifting inside him, an echo of a boy he'd forgotten. "I didn't think anyone noticed," he murmured. "I did," she replied, "and I never forgot." Her name was Tessa. And now, sitting across from her, he felt something he hadn't felt in years, connection. Over dinner, rosemary chicken for him, butternut squash soup for her. He learned more. She worked as a part-time librarian, which made him chuckle. Still hiding behind the book stacks? "Only during story time," she teased. Then her voice softened. "It gives me more time with my daughter." "You have a daughter?" he asked, surprised. "Leia," she said with pride. "She's 4. Loves ballet, dinosaurs, and pink everything." Grayson laughed, the sound surprising him. "Sounds like a handful." "She is," Tessa said, her eyes warm. "But she's the best thing that ever happened to me." When he asked about her husband, a shadow crossed her face. There never really was one. Just me and Leia from the start. Grayson didn't push. He just nodded. That must have been hard. "Sometimes. But this town helps. People look out for each other here." He looked around, nostalgia creeping in. "It hasn't changed much. You used to live here, didn't you?" He hesitated. "Yeah, until I was 15. My father's business collapsed. We lost everything. Then my mom died a few months later." "I'm sorry," she whispered. He gave a short nod. "It was a long time ago." After a pause, she said, "Do you remember the library?" He smiled faintly. "Barely. I used to go there after school. It was quiet." She looked down, almost shy. That's where it happened. You left your lunch for me there. I didn't even know your name back then. Not until tonight. A long silence stretched between them. And in that moment, Grayson felt something melt, something old and brittle. He saw her now, not as a stranger on a blind date, but as a thread from the past he hadn't realized was still tied to his soul. That night, back at his hotel, Grayson couldn't shake the memory. He was supposed to leave town by noon. Boston awaited, meetings, numbers, deals. Yet by early afternoon, he found himself parked outside the town's public library. Inside, laughter echoed between painted shelves. He followed the sound and stopped. A little girl in a pink dress twirled among a group of toddlers, arms raised in a perfect ballet spin. Her giggle was pure sunlight. Leia, before he could move, she spotted him. You, she said, pointing. Your mom's friend from the date. Every head turned. Grayson froze. Tessa peered, cheeks flushed. Leia, she hissed. Indoor voices, sweetheart. The girl ignored her. You're the man with a serious face. Tessa tried not to laugh. Apparently, I may have described you as intense. You said, he looks like a statue with a tie, Leia added proudly. Grayson laughed out loud for the first time in what felt like forever. Well, that's new. She's brutally honest, Tessa said. Gets it from her grandmother. Leia leaned closer to him, her eyes wide. You're not scary at all. You just forget to smile. Grayson froze, then smiled softly. You're right. I do forget sometimes. Then you should practice, she said solemnly. Smiling makes your eyebrows go up. It's better. He laughed, feeling lighter than he had in years. When Tessa finally asked why he was there, he lied only a little. I was in the area. She arched a brow. You came to a library in a town you haven't visited in over 10 years, just to be in the area? Maybe I was curious, he said. About you, or her. Tessa smiled, glancing toward Leia twirling again in her pink tutu. Both. Both. And for the first time since he'd returned, Grayson didn't feel like a stranger anymore. He felt like he'd come home. The next few weeks passed like something between a dream and a storm. Grayson kept finding excuses to stay in town. First business calls, then research, then no excuse at all. He started showing up at the library every Thursday, bringing coffee for Tessa and new storybooks for kids. Leia would race to greet him with a delighted Mr. Statue Man and a hug that could disarm anyone. He told himself it was harmless, just a man reconnecting with his hometown, just helping a friend. But when he saw the way Tessa's face lit up when she laughed, or the way she tucked her hair behind her ear when she was shy, Grayson realized he was in trouble. And for the first time in years, he didn't mind. One gray morning, the laughter was missing. When Grayson walked into the library, Tessa sat at a table with her head in her hands, a crumpled envelope beside her. Tessa, he asked softly. She quickly wiped her eyes. Hey, I didn't hear you come in. What's wrong? It's nothing. Tessa, he said again, and this time his voice carried that quiet authority, the one that made even boardrooms fall silent. With a shaky breath, she handed him the paper. It's the house. My landlord's selling. They're tearing it down to build new condos. I have 30 days to move out. Grayson's jaw tightened. You can't afford another place in this town, can you? She shook her head. Everything's double what I pay now. And Leia's school is here. I can't just uproot her. He didn't think, just said, I'll help. Gray, no. Yes. She frowned, folding her arms. You barely know me. I knew you once, he said quietly. And maybe that's enough. Her eyes softened, but she shook her head. I can't let you fix this. I've fought too hard to stand on my own. He respected that, but that didn't mean he would walk away. Days later, Tessa received a call. This is from the library board. The voice said, your rent's been covered through next year. Anonymous donor. She didn't need to ask who. She just stared out the window, blinking back tears. When Grayson stopped by that evening, she didn't mention it. Instead, she smiled and said, you shouldn't have. He smiled faintly. You can't prove I did. Your assistant emailed me a receipt by accident. He chuckled. Then I suppose I'm caught. She sighed, shaking her head. You really can't help yourself, can you? No, he admitted. Not when it comes to you. For a long time, neither spoke. Then, without warning, she reached out, her hand brushing his. You don't have to save me, Gray. He looked at her, eyes steady. Maybe I'm not saving you. Maybe you're saving me. A month later, everything shattered. Tessa collapsed at work. The doctor said it was exhaustion, malnutrition, stress, lack of rest. Grayson hadn't seen fear in a long time, but sitting by her hospital bed, watching the 4 drip tick down, it clawed at him like a living thing. Leah clung to his arm, tears streaking her cheeks. Is Mommy gonna die? No, he whispered, his throat raw. She's just tired, sweetheart. She just needs rest. When Tessa woke, her voice was barely a whisper. Where's Leah? With me, he said. She's fine. Her eyes fluttered. You didn't have to stay. He gave a sad smile. I couldn't leave. She reached for his hand weakly. You should, before you care too much. Too late, he said simply. When she was discharged a week later, things seemed to settle. But fate wasn't done testing them. One afternoon, a man appeared at the library. Sharp suit, smug smile, and papers in hand. I'm here for Tessa Brooks, he announced. My client is seeking custody of her daughter. Tessa's world froze. Her ex, Leah's biological father, had never been part of her life. But now, seeing her struggle, he wanted to claim rights. Grayson's temper burned ice cold. He's doing this for money, he said afterward, pacing her living room. Maybe, she whispered, but he's her father. The court might see it differently. Then we'll fight. We, she asked. He stopped pacing, meeting her eyes. You don't have to do this alone anymore. She didn't argue. She was too tired to, and too scared to hope. The custody hearing was brutal. The man's lawyer painted Tessa as unstable, barely employed, in debt, unfit. When Grayson took the stand, murmurs rippled through the courtroom. Billionaire CEO, testifying for a small-town librarian? Yes, he said firmly. I've known her since she was a child. She is kind, responsible, and stronger than anyone I know. If the court questions her ability to provide, I'll personally ensure Leah has everything she needs. The judge raised an eyebrow. Are you offering financial guardianship? I'm offering to be family, Grayson said simply. Gasps filled the room. Tessa's tears fell freely. By the end of the hearing, the case was dismissed. Custody remained with Tessa. Outside the courthouse, she turned to him. You didn't have to do that. Yes, he said quietly. I did. Why? He took her hand, his voice trembling. Because I finally remember that day in the library. You were hiding behind the shelves, crying. You were starving, and I gave you what little I had. And all these years later, you're still the one person who makes me want to give everything I have. Tessa broke then, silent tears, soft laughter, relief. You don't even realize it, do you? She whispered. You never stopped saving me. And you, he said, brushing her cheek, never stopped reminding me what being human means. A year later, the library lights glowed warm against the first snow. Inside, a small gathering filled the air with laughter. Leah, now 5, was showing off her new pink boots to anyone who'd listen. Tessa stood near the old reading nook, where sunlight once fell across 2 children long ago. Grayson stepped up behind her, slipping a hand around her waist. Still your favorite place? He asked. Always. He smiled, then reached into his pocket. Then maybe this belongs here too. She turned and froze. A small silver ring, simple but elegant, lay in his palm. Gray, she whispered. It's not a diamond, he said softly. It's a promise. For you, for Leah, for the family we built without even meaning to. Tears filled her eyes. You're serious? Completely. She smiled through her tears. You know, I prayed once for someone kind, someone steady. I never thought it'd be the boy who left his lunch for me. He laughed, pulling her close. Guess prayers take the long way home. Outside, the snow kept falling, blanketing the small town in quiet peace. And inside the library, Between laughter, love, and the scent of old books, two people who'd once been strangers sat beneath the same light. Finally, beautifully, home again.